Evening. Fears that Russia will invade Ukraine have rapidly intensified, with the US and NATO making major military moves as they brace for possible conflict. Washington has readied more than 8,000 soldiers for potential deployment, while NATO is reinforcing Europe's eastern flank with ships and fighter jets. For the first time since the Cold War, a US carrier group has been placed under NATO command. Well, Chief International Correspondent Ben Lewis joins us now from Kiev. Good evening, Ben. In the last hour, Russia has announced more military moves of its own.
And Catalina, good evening. Moscow says it will be conducting combat readiness inspection drills in its southern military district. Now, that is the district which borders Ukraine. These drills will involve around 6,000 troops. It's thought that overall, Russia has around 120,000 troops in the border region with Ukraine. The Kremlin says it is seriously concerned about NATO's plans to send more troops and equipment to Eastern Europe. They say it is Western hysteria. Western leaders say they are simply responding to Russian aggression. Back from his Camp David retreat and straight to the White House Situation Room, President Biden held an 80-minute video call with NATO chiefs and European leaders. The West keen to portray a message of unity and resolve.
I had a very, very, very good meeting, total unanimity with all the European leaders.
The Pentagon announcing a significant ramping up of military assistance. 8,500 troops ready to join a NATO response force.
Secretary Austin has placed a range of units in the United States on a heightened preparedness to deploy, which increases our readiness to provide forces if NATO should activate the NRF or if other situations develop.
Meetings too across Europe. The US Secretary of State joining EU foreign ministers by video link, and the Swedish and Finnish foreign ministers holding talks with NATO's Secretary General.
We are considering to further enhance our presence in the eastern part of the alliance. This could include the deployment of additional NATO battle groups.
The NATO chief said Denmark, Spain, France and the Netherlands were all looking to send troops, planes or ships as part of the alliance's response. Asked whether an invasion is imminent, the British Prime Minister said the intelligence was gloomy, while recalling another costly conflict on Vladimir Putin's watch.
Invading Ukraine, from a Russian perspective, is going to be a painful, violent and bloody business. And I think it's very important that people in Russia understand that this could be a new Chechnya.
Russia, meanwhile, continues its show of strength, sending more heavy armour to Belarus's southern borders, just 75 kilometres from Kiev, and holding exercises in the Baltic. The Kremlin, though, saying Russia's actions are in response to Western aggression.
Не из-за того, что делаем мы, Россия. Это все происходит из-за того, что делает НАТО, Соединенные Штаты, и за счет той информации, которую они распространяют.
While Canberra has advised Australian citizens to leave Ukraine immediately, in most parts of the country, it's largely business as usual.
Honestly, it's just another day, just another normal day. Nothing is different, not a single thing.
Colin Palmer and his Ukrainian wife Marina live in the city of Sumy, 100 kilometres from the Russian border. The Australian embassy contacted him, but he told them he won't be leaving.
This is my home. It's the longest in my entire life I've ever lived at the one single address.
Are you worried about your safety at all?
Look, nobody is. Nobody here is concerned for their safety at all. I don't know a single person that is worried.
After all, this part of Ukraine has been in a state of war since 2014.
Chief International Correspondent Ben Lewis reporting from Ukraine. Well, Ukraine's representative in Canberra has also told SBS News Australia's decision to evacuate its diplomats' dependents from Kiev is premature and excessive. The decision has heightened anxiety among Ukrainian Australians, many of whom were already concerned for their families' safety.
With possible conflict and all its uncertainty looming, Ukrainian Australians are turning to the comfort of their church.
The community is very anxious, very worried. It is an extremely distressing time. The majority of our parishioners who survived the Second World War are now well into their 90s. And we had a number at church on Sunday who were in tears.
For others, the fear is for their loved ones back home, and today they feel further away than ever. The government now advising Australians not to travel to Ukraine and evacuating its diplomats' family members from Kiev.
This is a matter of prudence and caution to protect the safety of Australians and particularly the dependents of diplomatic staff, but it in no way detracts from our absolute commitment to Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty.
But Ukraine's top diplomat in Canberra thinks the decision is premature.
We have more than 120 foreign embassies and international organization offices in Ukraine. There are only 4 countries that decide to evacuate. We believe it's a little bit too excessive at this point.
The US, UK and Germany are taking similar measures, a move Ukrainian officials fear will suggest war is inevitable.